All right, welcome back to the Vi Media channel and another Marketing Monday episode. Today is Marketing Monday number 55. 55 weeks in a row now, we have been recording a Marketing Monday episode here on the Vi Media channel, talking about everything marketing related. Of course, a lot of the time we're talking about digital marketing, and today is no different. We're talking about the core update for Google. It's one of the things we'll talk about, main thing we'll talk about. But as many of you know, and many of you probably don't know, is that Google, of course, had a core update for SEO. And some of the biggest things that we have really been finding is that Google is continuing to go after AI generated content. Now, I'll hyphenate that, quotation mark that, and say that that is not 100% the case, right? Because, of course, as a marketing agency, we test all sorts of strategies for ourselves, just to get an idea on what's going to work well. If that's us just throwing up an AI generated website in a random city for some sort of business category we're going after to see how it works, then of course, we do that. And we have a handful, if not a couple handfuls of AI generated, um, websites that we have made, and a lot of them are losing ground, but a few of them are continuing to increase on a monthly basis. So what I will say is this: you're fighting a losing battle. You're praying essentially that Google is not going to see your AI generated content as AI generated content. And one thing I will say as well is that, I hear more and more about, we can just go ahead, ChatGPT, or whatever LMM you got, your company is using or whatever you're using, um, and go ahead and, write out the content for 100 different pages on the website, right? And then you can supposedly run it through a reader that says if it's human or not. And of course, we know that those things don't work because I'm fairly certain that we put the Declaration of Independence through there and it said it was AI generated content. So it's tricky. It's tricky. I would stick with the true, SEO principles, which is, you know, obviously not using AI generated content. Of course, there are areas that, ChatGPT and things like that and Gronk and things like that do help in the SEO process, but you cannot be reliant upon it, of course, in order just to say, hey, I want these 10 pages about X, Y, and Z, and whip out the content and put it on the site. I wish it were that easy. If it was, you know, we'd be making a lot more in profit, but it's not. Now, of course, there are marketing companies that do this, obviously. But there's, a right way to go about it. And that's writing the content on the website itself. So we've talked about this before that if a company is talking about using AI generated content, which a lot of the time they won't even tell you, of course. Why would they? But it may pay off, but it probably won't. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to take the safe bet and not put my business, in front of the Google behemoth and get flagged and lose a bunch of rankings. Because of course, if your business is, even if it's, 10% or 20% reliant on people finding them through SEO means, and you lose a lot of that, well, the owner is about to make a lot less money. People are going to get fired. Obviously, that presents itself a ton of issues, either now or down the road, as Google continues to try and crack down on, of course, AI generated content. So, the biggest thing from the core update, and obviously, this just took place, a week ago. So, we don't know a ton yet. We will know more, as the weeks kind of play out. Of course, there are theories out there, but again, the biggest takeaway that I think we found really so far, and this goes for a lot of the SEO, journals out there, of course, too, is that they are attacking AI generated content, and they have been since what I believe July's or June's last update of last year. Because beforehand, everyone was just like, "Hey, ChatGPT, make me 1,000 pages, anything related to X, Y, and Z industry," and just launch them, and you'd be able to rank fairly well pretty immediately because you're just pumping out so much content, right? In theory, it sounds nice, but in theory, it really doesn't work very well. And again, you're really putting yourself, uh, in a poor position for Google to eventually, more likely than not, tank your rankings because we see it across the board. So that's the core update. The other thing I really wanted to talk about as well this week is last week we talked about how, the imbalance between like ad spend versus the actual management cost of a marketing agency. I kind of want to discuss websites today because I think, people are just inherently building websites incorrectly. The reason being is that a majority of these companies that are building websites, and we're going through this process right now, is that they do not take SEO into mind. Now, we've talked about this briefly on the podcast before, but if you are building a site and of course, design is important, but what's also important is to make sure that people are able to find your business when they're searching for what you do and what you offer, right? And if people are unable to find you, obviously that presents its own issues. You're not being found, obviously, for what you do. So if you are designing a new website, you want to come at it from an SEO standpoint, meaning looking at the hierarchy of the website, right? So if you're this type of business, I need these specific pages on my website because I know that all of these specific services are searched. So if you're a roofing company, you know that you need, residential, right? And commercial. You know that you need something about flat roofs, something about EPDM, something about and then residential, you got something about shingles, something about metal, something about roof repair, something about storm damage, right? Roof replacement, all of the different ways that someone realistically categorizing them, those search terms into pages that are built out on your website. That way Google knows, hey, if someone's searching for this website specifically has a page on their website talking about exactly what they're searching for, right? If you just have, say a small website, a 5-page website, that may be able to get you, far in industries where there's not a lot of search volume and not much competition. But, a lot of our clients are in highly competitive industries like attorneys, personal injury and things like that, in business law, in estate planning, and obviously home service companies like HVAC and roofing, where you have a ton of different companies and providers with a ton of marketing spend dumping money into those avenues, right? So you know that more likely than not, you can't just throw a 5-page website up and hope to God that people start finding you from, obviously what you would like to find them for. So you need to come at it from an SEO standpoint. Now, if you are coming at it from a standpoint of, hey, I'm a new business, or, you know, I get all my money on referrals, not that many people search for me, blah, blah, blah. I just essentially want a business card online. That's great. And that can work. Just know that more likely than not, you're not going to get SEO traffic, right? To your website organically, because you're not spending the time and writing the content and doing what needs to be done in order to be found, of course, on Google. So when you're building a website, talk to the company and make sure that they're coming at it from an SEO perspective on what pages should and need to be built out. Because at the end of the day, if you're building out a website, no one's going to find it. Well, no one cares. And that money was wasted. And we see that, again, we're going through this right now. We're talking to a company that ranks, pretty well here locally. They've been working on a new site for entirely too long of a period. And, I look at the demo link and it already looks outdated. A lot of the pages that were ranking on their old site are no longer even on the new site, right? So when you build a new site, a lot of the time you want to move over all of those pages that you have built out on your existing site, unless you for some reason no longer offer it for whatever reason. And then, you can 404 it or whatever you want to do or redirect it right to a different page on the website. But you don't want to just not have pages on the new site that you have on your existing site if it ranks and brings in traffic, obviously, because then all of a sudden you don't have that page and now you lose all the traffic that was being generated from that page that used to be on the site, right? So when you are building a new site, especially if you have an existing site, it's very important that you work with a company that is well versed in SEO as well as, of course, web design. Those two things should go together. I would never recommend just working with a web design company unless obviously for whatever reason you have some sort of product. Obviously there's examples where maybe it makes a little bit more sense, but a blanket statement for the most part, I would say you don't if a web design company does not have an SEO, at least person or team that they work with when they're building sites, that in the long run is going to create problems for you and your business. It's a fact. Why do we know it's a fact? Seen it dozens of times, probably more. Maybe not hundreds, probably over 100. You get the point. So, you need to be paying attention to this stuff, and we have a ton of good videos on this channel as well about like finding a good marketing agency, what are red flags, what to look out for, how to choose, a web company, an SEO company, and things like that when you're looking for a new provider, because it's important that you make the right decision. Because it's very easy, as I'm sure you're all well aware, it's very easy to waste and spend money on marketing and it take you nowhere. And of course, it was a wasted investment in your business. So make sure, number one, and again, it goes back to what I was saying before about the core update, right? When you're building a new site, you have someone managing your site, you want to make sure if your business is reliant, and more likely is than it isn't, reliant on people finding you through search, then you want to make sure that your SEO company, for example, is not just using ad generated content, that a company that's building your site or managing your site knows how to properly do it, has SEO people, on staff that, are specific in their strategy when building a new site. If the strategy is just, hey, let's build this good looking site, here are the pages, no thought goes into search volume, how people are finding that business, you're already setting yourself up for a disaster. So, as always, this is another Marketing Monday episode. Please like, review, subscribe, comment. We have a ton of videos on this channel. As I said, this is going to be the 55th video. So, if you want to find anything, I'm sure we might have a video about it. We should have a video about it. If you want to know something that we haven't talked about, leave a comment, DM us, reach out to us. Of course, you can go to our website, vi.media, or obviously reach out to us through any of the social channels that you are listening to us on right now. Thank you again. Talk soon. Goodbye.